Hi, I'm Steven Bujman. Thor is the organizer and the co-organizer. Thanks for coming. I want to introduce the speaker. Anand is a good friend of mine at work, so we work together. It's a few of us from dealer.com today. So this is a talk about the social relationship manager tool that the team works on.
Cool. Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. So today, a little bit about myself as far as the work goes. So I work on the social tools product development team. So we develop a bunch of different tools for our customers who are basically partners. So we help with help them with engaging with their customers on different social media websites, and then trying to understand what people are talking about them, and then thereby connect the customers to the people, all inside one tool, and then we get a bunch of different social media websites. So what I plan to cover is different things that are built as part of the social tool suite, and then I plan to cover things that as a developer, what it takes to someone comes and says that, hey, I have this Facebook page, I want to know what's happening with my Facebook page, how many people I'm getting, how do I bring in more people, or I want to know what people are talking about me on the internet, things like that, talking good, bad, that kind of stuff. So some of the findings we made, and then some of the techniques we used. So is what I'm going to talk about. Feel free to interrupt me anytime, and then I'll be happy to digress and talk more about it. And I have some code to present, but if you want to dig deep, we can definitely do it after the talk. You can spend how much more time you want to talk about it. So let's dive into it. And cool. So broadly, the suite of social tools comprises of these. It's broadly classified into these 6 different buckets. As a business, from the business perspective, the reviews aggregation pretty much means that people leave reviews, good or bad, on several different places on the internet. We have Google Plus, a bunch of different other domain-specific websites. And then the reviews aggregation is really all about connecting to all these different disparate places, and then gathering all this unstructured data, and then trying to present it in one unified view, and then trying to make sense of what it is all about. And reputation monitoring is really that what is the internet, or what are people talking about elsewhere on the web, and trying to make as best a guess as possible. So this pretty much involves letting your crawlers or whatever tool you want to employ to find information and then see how much relevant it is to our business, and then trying to make sense of trying to employ machine learning techniques, or even very rudimentary techniques to see what the content is all about, thereby given a reward. Content discovery is really about engaging with customers. It's really a way of advertising. Really, you might have seen posts and suggested posts on Facebook, or promoted feeds on Twitter, things like that. Basically, something that the business thinks would bring them leads or customers and help them engage. That's really what it is. So the content discovery is all about helping the businesses find content that's worth sharing, so that they can get more people. So content publishing is the counterpart of content discovery. It's just the act of what we discovered, and publishing that out to the outer world, so that we can. Real-time feeds is once we publish content, so then wait for like things to happen. Like there are a lot of people, and then like, people start like liking it, commenting on it, and we want to know as soon as we can as a business to like so that we can engage and then like try to respond to it. So this really like working with like some of the vendors or providers that really support real-time feeds, and then trying to integrate with them. And analytics is really like with all the data that we collected so far, trying to like, put them all together and then try to see as a whole where we stand, like how we are really working out as a business, are we doing good, bad, and like trying to drop numbers. So so trying to cover like one bullet point after another, and then a little bit of code, a little bit of explanation, and then just try to interpret. So reviews, aggregation, like it's really just like collecting like customer reviews from like different places. So we do collect. So I have some screenshots. I'm going to go over them to really see how like our tool looks like. But primarily, it's just collecting like consumer reviews. So Yelp and Edmunds it's a car related website. So that's where our customers are. So it's one of the primary sources, and Facebook, of course, because that's where everybody has. And just to get before going into like how I'm doing it, just to set a perspective on how the tool looks like. I'm trying to get into the screen where we collect the consumer reviews. These are some of the websites that we try to look for reviews, and then this is just like a sync where we show all the reviews, and there are also some like charts on like some of the stats on how we're doing over time. There's a time series.
So your customers are car dealers?
Yes.
Okay.
So the customers are car dealers, and so this tool is really like a one-stop shop for car dealers, like for all their social media needs. So like we do have like, other products too, but this part of the product is just the social media engagement product.
So how do you store the ratings? How do you like structure the ratings? How do you do deduplication? I guess is more the question.
So the way we go about this is that so there is so when we first set up, there is a phase when the customers have to work with us to specify where we want to pull the reviews from. For example, there is a specific page on Yelp where like all the reviews for our customer list. So we want that. So we ask them to set up the URL here, and then once the URL is set up, there's a few different techniques through which we get the data. The most common is where we work with the providers, so that so providers that have APIs. So we work with pull the data to the API. But there's a lot of it that really don't have an API, and then in that case we just brute force it, try to like scrape, like do like HTML scraping.
Or div ID or something. And
Yeah,
pull it out.
yeah. So and traditionally it's always been that we had to do the whole HTML lookup and all that, but recently there's this spurt in tools that call themselves as providing like API for the web is what they call as. Like I have one of the tools that I wanted to demo, which is pretty cool. So like primarily they take away like all the low-level details from us in the sense that we don't have to like scrape the HTML and all that, but they do it for us.
Is this an open source tool, or is this like a library, or is this like a third-party commercial tool that you use to pull data from sites?
Well, there are open source tools too, but there are also commercial tools based on the features that they provide, and they can go to any level of specification. But what we use so far is just like plain like we do scraping ourselves. But we've been exploring an open source tool which I was going to demo.
Oh.
So it's, in fact, that's the next thing I was going to demo as well. So it's called, so I already covered the API aggregation model. It's really nothing, just, there's a prearranged API key that we use to make API calls, and then we agree on a schema, and then, like we scrape that. HTML scraping is another technique, and so it really looks like, so this is like a small like pseudocode that that we use if we are doing HTML scraping, for example. Then we use things like JSON to just really go low level and then look for we try to kind of look for patterns in HTML, which is obviously brutal because we are at the mercy of the web providers.
Do you write tests around that? Like, not so much tests, but like real-time monitoring of the site to see if that breaks? Or
Yeah, we have automated tests that we randomly run to test the stability. And we have like pretty sophisticated monitoring around that too. But it's always like we trying to catch up with them. And it's not always easy, and then some of them can be like pretty sophisticated. Like I think Google is one of them. I think they just like change the HTML like pretty drastically just overnight and become hard to kind of catch up with. Which is where like these tools come into play. It's called import.io. It's an open source tool. It's gaining popularity. It's really what it is they just want to quickly just go through the website and then go into the tool itself. It's really just like turning the pages into data, like looking for patterns and then training them so that it can make the best guess of what the data that you're looking for. And like some of these tools can be pretty sophisticated in the sense that they can be auto-correcting. So if the HTML breaks, like simple things like the div ID, change the format of the div ID, they try to auto-correct so that our contract does not break. But some of them, like cannot really help. We have to retrain the engine to work with them.
And then you have to weigh, I guess, computational intensity versus, the value of something breaking, the cost of something breaking. Because I assume this takes a lot more firepower, horsepower than these tools.
Yeah. And also they had, so when they call themselves open source, it's really that, they only have, so they also have enterprise version, they have where you work with dedicated like people to ensure stability and all that. But for the most part, this works, this is pretty stable as far as like pretty, like the computer sites go.
So you keep pounding away at this site and it's converting it to data?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they don't mind?
Well, they do have a limit. I mean, you mean like the sites from...
Well, import.io converts web pages in real time, right? You enter the URL there?
Oh, these? Yeah.
We do not use them.
Oh, you don't use them?
Yeah, we don't use them like in production yet.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's the idea that, you enter the URL and then you scrape it real time.
And that's an interface, though, to their API, which is open source, so you can download and run on your server.
Yeah, actually they have a tool that's more like an IDE. That is for a demo.
And I use JSoup.
Sorry?
Sorry, I'm a little bit late, but you were using JSoup for.
Typically we use JSoup, I guess, what is it? We're pulling down the source. I think it's JSoup that's parsing it, and we hand it off to a Groovy script to do the different work for the different sites so that we can have custom scripts for each site.
What did JSoup give you over the XML server?
It just gives a more fluent API.
But we do have some things that are using XML.
Do you actually use
yeah,
dot connect or do you do dot parse?
100% one or the other.
And you use like a regular URL connection?
We don't use .connect because we have our own like native HTTP client.
Makes sense.
But then we pass on what we get back.
Okay.
In fact, JSoup is just one part of it. The other part is like we have the Groovy scripts just because they're easier.
That's the XML slurper.
Yeah, that's XML server. Yeah.
Because I've tried JSoup recently and I found that it's not parsing out, like I want to do the dot text and it's not parsing out text only, like it's still returning in some cases it's returning
Like
HTML, yeah, like href type tags, href on some pages.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you guys handle that.
Like there have been some cases where it's especially with complicated HTML could be, but again I think it's only in one or two places where you use JSoup, and those have been pretty simple cases. I guess we've been just like covered as far as that go. We haven't really come across issues. So I already had something that I trained, but I'm just going to review it so that. So, sorry about that. So it's really an HTML stuff, but the way to use it is to go to the page that you want to train, and when we're ready, basically you cross the HTML, and then let's say I was going to say like grading. This is my first column, and I'm going to say this is what I want to crawl, and I have repetition of that pattern across my web page. So, like a lot of times, just because there's a repetition of the data structure, it's pretty smart about just like auto scraping it and then suggesting it, and then if we could do like we could do customizations on it if you want to. But in here, it's it's pretty much got what I wanted. If I want, then you can just say that, hey, I don't want I could say that this is not what I'm looking for. Let's say I just want this piece of text. And but I'm just going to open up the computer Chrome and basically this is what it exposes, and then this exposes through a REST API, and then we could work on the REST API just like any other API. Generally, that's the idea, and then these tools can get pretty sophisticated. As I said, you could work with like tech support and stuff like that.
So are you saying import.io, if you go into their website using their service, they expose a REST interface that you use after they're crawled in? Okay.
Yeah.
There's no server, like you mentioned open source, so is there a server component that you can run on your on-premise?
On-premise? I'm not aware of like an on-premise.
Oh, okay. So this everything in import.io is they host it for you.
Yeah, it's hosted by them, and I don't think they have a self-hosted version yet.
Oh, okay.
How many sites are they blocked by?
He's waiting, I guess.
I'm sure they just open up a new instance and that one's not blocked.
I think. Yeah, most of many of the providers just work on like dynamic IDs.
Have you had any problems with dynamically generated pages, like something built in Angular or whatever, JavaScript or something like that? I imagine most of these aren't, because you want it cached and served fast.
Yeah, we as far as possible we try to limit to very few sites and not go to very random websites. We try to work with like websites that we trust.
Sure.
But so far, my experience has not been hit by the JavaScript injection and anything like that.
Okay. No, I'm not worried about attacks or what. I'm talking about just the way the page is generated, dynamically generated pages, scraping from those.
Yeah, we've had some complications, like you mentioned with Google.
Okay.
You can tell their page is compiled from something else, and so the naming of their classes and objects is different today than it was a couple days ago. And so you have to find elements of their markup that are stable. They exist, at least so far.
Something hierarchical, maybe.
Yeah, it's not trivial. And if they decide they want to change the look of it, okay, all bets are off.
Yeah.
So that's one of the tools, and there's a couple of other tools too that are more enterprisey. One is called Alchemy API. It's one of the commercial ones.
So how do they make money? Import.io?
They have the enterprise tool that they make money on, so, which has like dedicated support and stuff. So that brings to like reputation monitoring, which is like working with even more unstructured data. Like at least as far as the reviews go, there is some pattern to it, and then we could use these training APIs, or it's relatively easier to identify a pattern. The reputation monitoring is really about not only just looking for reviews, but any kind of information that may be relevant to our business. So it basically involves, it could involve anywhere from subscribing to like RSS, like it could be a bunch of RSS tools to just like using like crawling across the social media sites, like publicly available social media sites, or just like running crawlers, employing crawlers to bring back like information that we could maybe like try to do analysis on to see if it's relevant. So in general, it's we, as far as our sites go, we employ a two-step process. One is we look for information, and once the information has been gathered, we try to run analysis on it, try to make sense of if it's talking positive, it's really doing sentiment analysis on it. So before getting into the tool part of it, I just wanted to demo like how it looks like a tool, just so that I can get a context. So, like in short, it basically looks like there's a piece of text, and then it comes from like one or like a random source, and then once we get it, we try to like classify to the best of our ability on whether it's talking like good or bad. And then the way we do it is pretty like rudimentary. It's one of the first things we built, and not really like go as on it. The way the sentiment analysis works as far as the tool goes is that we set up a bunch of keywords, and we do keyword search on the text, and then we have an internal dictionary that we maintain on and then we assign weights to what each word means as far as positive and negative goes, and then we run each piece of text we get through the dictionary to really determine like what's the sentiment on it. But then obviously it could be wrong, so they can always go and then like change it. And then
Oh, okay. So there's is that going to do any training? Are you doing any kind of Bayesian?
we don't do as yet, but that's the idea behind this. That if we change it, we learn from it, and then do a more correct match going forward.
I understand it's a super hard domain problem because of so many English speakers are sarcastic. It's like, sarcasm is like very difficult in sentiment analysis.
Yeah, and it's easy to confuse this tool too. Like even in pretty sophisticated tools, it's pretty easy to confuse. Like all you have to say is like, and then like say hate, and then just make sure that there's one less mention of hate, and then you'll still think that it's a positive comment.
So is it just like a dictionary type thing? Is what you're looking for?
Yeah, we have a static dictionary table that we run this through.
I can give you a tip from another talk I went to on sentiment analysis.
Yeah.
But the number one predictor are smiley faces. Because if you're sarcastic, you might put unhappy face on it. And if you put the happy face and the unhappy face are like the number one predictor for sentiment analysis.
Oh, wow.
And it's very simple to look for.
So for looking up information, we use standard RSS and we have an RSS subscription tool, and we crawl with the help of RSS. But to look for like more unstructured data, we use this service called ADLEX, which is really another one of our crawling services. I don't have a demo of it, but I'll quickly run through the website just to give an idea on how it works. But it's been around, and then they keep getting blocked, but they find a way of getting out of it again by running their across on different machines. But so far it worked out pretty good for us in that we have not had too much downtime with them, and we've been using them for a while. And as far as like crawling social media websites go, we use an API called Social Mentions, which is another. It's a commercial tool where it lets us search like publicly available social media data. So I'm just going to quickly go through how ADX works, just so that you know. So basically, the way this works is that we provide them a bunch of URLs that we want to crawl, and then they do and we can specify an algorithm that we want them to crawl, like meaning they could do a depth first algorithm or breadth first, or they could do a hybrid lookup. But at the end of the crawl, we have so we could specify how many web pages to be crawled, and then there's a cost associated with each crawl, and then and they have and the most basic of the crawl just gets an HTML dump, and then like people contribute plugins to look for like finite, like specific pieces of data. For example, if I'm looking only for images, there could be plugins that could just scrape images out of the HTML, or if I'm just looking for like popular like product information or like business information, there's plugins that will just provide like businesses or just address information, things like that.
So this is you said these are for social mentions. So when you give what
ADX
URL?
is a generic crawler.
It's
Oh,
a
okay.
generic crawler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need. I'm still. I'm going to go to the social mentions.
Sorry.
Basically, this has a REST API through which it exposes a REST API to create a crawl and then also to process results. So it works purely on the basis of HTTPS. The social mentions is it's more like a search engine, but it also gives pretty sophisticated metrics around it. Things like it runs some basic sentiment search on it too. Although the API, there's no API to get the additional data yet, but it does some like pretty basic processing on the results that it forms. Things like top keywords, sentiment, and then it's supposed to be like pretty real time. Although being able to like really test how real time it is. Yeah.
The big question I would have related to this is, can you put in dealer.com looking for mentions of that, and more importantly, will it dereference URLs that are bit.ly, owly, URL shorteners?
Okay. So you mean like is it able to decipher like bit.ly URLs?
Yeah, exactly. And because I would think a lot of these mentions would be hidden if you're not dereferencing, or underlining is a better word.
Actually, I don't have I don't know it on top of my head.
Maybe good to find out, because Hootsuite by default will give you like owly as a shortener, and give you stats on that, so people are incentivized.
Yeah, we do that ourselves as part of another feature in our application, which is where people publish data. We use bit.ly pretty heavily to shorten URLs share. But we don't use their enterprise tool yet, which is where they have the analytics on like click count and things like that.
I know I have the free version of Hootsuite, which will do it with Owly. You just say you shorten the URL, and that will give you analytics, and I'm not paying anything for that.
Oh, how do you say that? Owly?
Owl like the bird, .ly.
Okay. Okay.
No, not
No,
that.
no, not .com. It's owl.ly.
Oh, right. Like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's it.
I thought it was OW.
Is it ow.ly? Maybe.
That'd be really good.
That makes more
Makes
sense.
Wow.
A little too clever.
Okay.
There you go. Short URL. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I could have made a fortune if I had just.
Yeah, so hooks were going to
Yeah, there's some very rich domain squatters.
Cool. So that's and then they have like really like there was a period when this was down for most of the time last year. So, but before that, they had a pretty basic API where you could just like give query time. They did not have any sophistication around things like geotagging and all that. But now, I think they have like geotagging and a few other parameters around it as part of the query.
Does it give searches across social networks like Twitter or something?
Yeah. It does definitely for Twitter and Facebook. I'm not sure what else it could be. I believe it also gives Foursquare,
Okay.
but there could be many more. So once we get the data, like as I said, as part of our tool, like we do pretty basic sentiment matching, like our homegrown solution. But like we want to go to a more sophisticated way for sure. So I just summarize like what we learned so far, and maybe it could be useful to somebody. So I just thought to plug it in. Like in general, there's two kinds of like sentiment analysis tools available on the market. Like one is more static, which means that it's not self-learning. Like we need to train it, and like once trained, we can use the trained data to run analysis on it. And there is a second set of tools that employ machine learning techniques, meaning they continuously train themselves based on the available sample set, and then based on that, the accuracy count is higher. Some of the popular ones are the Google Prediction API. That's pretty popular, and the Stanford NLP is really like an academic project, but it's all open source. Basically, it stands for Stanford Natural Language Processing. So it can basically, it's a text classification service at its core, meaning like give it some text, and then it can classify. It has its own grammar, and then it can classify the text into like words, vowels, sounds, and things like that. But there is also like several variations around it. One of it being sentiment analysis. So meaning it can also run like sentiment search on the classified data, and then they have a tool which is pretty cool.
Does Mahout do anything like that?
I'm sorry.
Mahout?
Yeah. Actually, there is Mahout and there is also Nudge, and there are a couple of other ones that I remember. But those are more. I think like they're more low level, as in I don't know if they come with their own like dictionary and stuff like that. But I haven't really worked with them, so I'm not very sure. but this is like a demo tool just to get an idea on how it classifies it. Basically, one of the first thing it does is to break the words, but I think internally it's also doing classification, and then the classification is what provides the words, the broken down words, and then on the broken down words, it's trying to run it against its own grammar or the dictionary to classify it to the best of its ability. I think it's color coded, and then the blue is positive, and the orange is negative. And this is really for demo purpose, but there's a way you could go and then say that you could set it right if it's if you don't think it's right classification. And it does not it does not calculate again, but it is just for getting an idea of how the tool works.
Do you use at your workplace this tool? I mean, like the NLP jar itself, or any text training and stuff like that?
We don't use it yet. We don't use it in production from here. We had done a proof of concept on it, but we haven't really rolled it out on production. So content discovery is again it's really like another it's another arm of the reputation, the review management. But this is more about just looking for content that's interesting. It's really like this could be like applicable not only for business but for anybody. It's really like a bookmarking service. Basically, we tell the tool like what we want, what we are interested in, and then it will go and then look for it. Some of the modes that we support is things like RSS and social trends, like news feeds. Just to give a perspective of how it looks like. So it has a few things rolled into one tool. Like the most important of which is the RSS feeds, and this is a pretty basic RSS tool. But also baked into it is the ability to follow certain users. The idea is to get this, and then if you have a good data set, then you could compute the influence and things like that based on the users. It also has things like the YouTube channels that you could subscribe to, and then so these basically work off the APIs. The Twitter has its own API, and then YouTube has its own API, and then we do a little bit of geocoding on it, and then based on where your business is located, it gets the trends for the region. So similarly on the Twitter trends, these are some of the things that could be useful for the business, but this in behind the scenes, it's really just working off APIs. So we set up an app on Twitter and Google, and then with the help of the API keys and tokens, we give this data. And then it's all subject to the same rate limits that other API providers have.
Oh, so your customers get their own API key? Is that what you're saying to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Each customer is responsible for getting an API key so that they have their own arrangement. Okay.
yeah, so that the limits apply to each customer. So just moving from the content discovery to the publishing portion, there's a way that we're building yet where you could share it if you want to, and then you could open the, like, it will provide a way of, like sharing out to multiple channels right from inside this tool. This is very similar to what tools like Hootsuite do. As in, you could take a piece of the content and share it out to different channels. And then this has to go through, so like a prerequisite for this is for the users to be able to set up a OAuth. So being able to authorize our apps on the respective sites so that we can act on behalf of them. So we do it for a few different sites. Actually, it should show you the interface, which is more. We do it for a few different sites. Like the primary ones are Facebook and Google, Twitter, and there's a bunch of blog sites and LinkedIn. But a lot of them work on the basis of OAuth. Some of them do not. I think TypePad does not. It just works off an API key. So so in the backend, we just have a common framework to handle like different kinds of authentication. So the main challenge in maintaining these keys is that they get expired, and then we don't have a very good way of like closing the loop. Which is why we're working towards building this other mechanism, which is one of the things I was going to cover later, where it should be some way of letting people know that yes, you need to act on it. So like other than the OAuth, the interesting part in it is that most of these just work with their own APIs, so it's pretty straightforward to integrate with them. And then they have a really good APIs ecosystem around them, especially like Google, Twitter, and Facebook. They have their own APIs, which is pretty popular and stable. So no fear of running into issues like with crawling, for example.
So Facebook's is pretty stable now.
Facebook, yeah, Facebook is pretty stable. They rolled out their 2.0 version of the API, and also that so they now have like a stability period, and they don't really make changes for 6 months or a year. I think.
Because for years, you hear nothing but complaints from developers about they're constantly making breaking changes and not even announcing them.
Yeah, we've been through it a lot. In fact, we found one of them even today.
Yeah, they went down today actually.
It went down. In fact, like it started throwing some kind of alert immediately, like in the morning about like we not honoring one of their codes, and then they disable us in like 6 months, and then they do revalidate the app.
They went down for a couple hours.
But they did.
All of Facebook or just these?
For a segment of their users. Yeah.
He shows the short straw.
So like Google Plus it's really it's only available to like preferred partners. There is no public API. It's really it works on a partner arrangement. So you basically apply for a partnership, and then once approved, you get eligible for integrating with the APIs.
Oh, you have to apply to Google?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can get the data, but to publish data, you need to apply for. So that. Yeah, maybe I can just do a quick demo of Twitter, just to get an idea of how the API looks like. Maybe let's say I pull up friends, which basically gives us friends at a particular place. It works on what's known as a where on earth ID, which is like a unique ID for every platform on Earth. It's a service on Yahoo, and then it just works with that. So at the lowest level, it just works on the it sends us JSON, and then there's the pretty level APIs, at least in the Java world, that act as wrappers around it.
You use Twitter4j?
We use Twitter4j, and we also started looking at the Spring social API, which is pretty stable now. It was not as featured a few years ago, but that provides a much more standardized pattern across different for businesses that have needs interacting with different channels. It provides a much more standardized API as far as the what goes, and also working with several of these major sites. So that's so I guess we also covered a little bit of content publishing. Like some of the APIs, as I said, is Spring Social, and there's a couple of open source tools called Twitter4j is pretty popular for Twitter, and for Facebook there's a tool called REST-FB, which is really like another fluent API. And there's Google's own APIs for working with all the Google provider services. So that brings to the real-time notifications, which is supported not by all the sites, but it's mainly like Twitter and Facebook are the big ones that are supported, and there are a few minor ones. Foursquare does it. But like Twitter and Facebook is what we work with exclusively. So, to basically get an idea, so it works on a few different techniques. One way is we exposing a REST or HTTP endpoint to which they can stream data. The other way is to really open a persistent connection. To the Twitter works on that concept, in the sense that we open a connection to the Twitter streams, is what they call, and then they basically keep pinging frequently so that the connection is maintained and then we don't disconnect. But once that's done, any activity just comes through. They have their own SLAs. Twitter is usually in the order of milliseconds. Facebook is a little longer. Wanted to demo Twitter, which is more interesting, and also it's easy to set up. So they have border part of the public screens, which gets filled into all of the public Twitter data, and they have a sample stream, which is really like a random sample of all the things that are flowing through Twitter firewalls. and they have firewalls which gives access directly to firewalls. And then I think firewalls is the most restrictive of all, just because there's a lot of volume.
You no longer have to be. At one point, there was like only 4 companies who got access to the fire hose or something like that. Is that gone now? Or?
No, they still have. I think it's gone down to 2 companies.
Only 2 companies can see it.
And then one of them was bought. So there was this company called
They were acquired.
Probably for that, yeah, that makes sense.
They bought Gannett, right?
Yeah. So there's Gidip and there's DataSift,
Yeah.
which was the other one. So they give access to all of firewalls and historical data. But they also paired it with a few other like data, mainly geotagging data. And then like at one point we were exploring DataSift and Gidip too, but we didn't really go anywhere. And so, like, as far as we are concerned, like, we're just working off the public stream for the real-time notification. It's just limited in terms of like how many keywords you can subscribe to. Basically, it works on the concept of subscribing to so many handles, Twitter handles, or subscribing to so many keywords. And then, just for now, we are well within the limit, so we're just working off the free. So the filter stream is what lets us do that. So you can basically follow a bunch of different users and a bunch of different keywords too. These are more like search terms, and let's say so this point it really connected, nothing flowing through, but let's say ports.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. It's an order of 40 milliseconds or something.
Can you combine keywords with like geotagging? So I'm just thinking of things where you might look for something like HB in Huntington Beach. So now you have some more confidence that that stands for Huntington Beach.
Yeah,
Like, or it could be Mercedes-Benz or Manhattan Beach.
Do you have a sense for how common geotagging is on tweets these days?
They only started geotagging, I think, a couple of years ago. So it's not that much, and it only works
by default, not off.
Yeah, that's only
for privacy.
Yeah. I don't think they have made it public on how much of the data is like really geotagged. But I don't imagine it's like very many.
So how does this keep alive? Like, do you have to occasionally reconnect, or?
Well, like to see, like it's sending like packets into packets. So you can see this. The every 30 seconds, I think it sends the packet. So
Like just
a heartbeat.
yeah, it's really like a heartbeat or
yeah.
and then yeah, that's pretty. They have like restrictions on, if they like as a client, we aggressively like backing off. If you're idle, then they ask us to close the connection and all that. But there are like wrapper clients like Peter4j, for example, that manage the internals for us. So as in they connect and disconnect and reconnect, like they work on the limits at White Peter. So it's usually just abstracted away from the
Like that.
Facebook is a little more involved in that there has to be an HTTP endpoint, and it's usually pretty delayed. It takes up to a minute for things to come through, and the data that comes through also varies. And then in Twitter, because there's only so many different like data structures, and then eventually everything is a tweet. So you get the whole tweet data. Like in Facebook, it's just because there's variety of different objects. There's like these people pages and events, things like that. They only send you this like indication of what changed, and then based on that, it's up to the caller to go and fetch it. So that's the minor difference between them. So again, like the analytics, it's a pretty broad subject in itself, it's really up to the needs of the business to implement different kinds of analytics. Can probably show some of the things that we've built, but as far as the provider, the analytics provided by the providers go, Twitter does not have any analytics. Like they claim to have it, but it's not open. They only recently opened it, I think. But for the most part, it's just a Facebook. They have a component called the Insights, basically that tells us things like for a business page, the kind of traffic that's coming through and the different demographics of people that are getting them, things like that. And then I'm not aware of any other sites that provide analytics, but I'm sure there should be other sites too. Again, the third-party providers go like GNIP and DataSift. They not only provide for Twitter, but also a bunch of different other providers. Let me just show it. Again, the low-level detail of it is that, for GNIP, they expose the REST API, and then we connect to the REST API. And then they work similar to Twitter in it that you keep open stream and then they push data. And so they only work. They work with quite a few of them. Keeps changing. DataSift is in terms of things that it covers. The DataSift is the most feature-rich, or it encompasses more different data sources. But it also has this other feature where they could inject data into a variety of data sources. For example, if we had our own Mongo data store, they could just push directly into Mongo data store. So not only the REST endpoint, but also different other endpoints is what they claim they could do.
They'll push to your REST API, is what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Push to our API.
Their web callback, their webhook or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just to so we don't really do a lot of analytics yet. It's one of the things that it's on the radar right now, but we just collect some very basic metrics on.
Can you bring up an example dealer?
Bring up precision like you did initially.
I was going to ask for Manhattan Beach Toyota.
Precision
What's
accurate.
the best Toyota
I know,
dealership in
that's a
LA?
good
I'd actually be interested in that.
They have really good dealership, right?
Well, they're so bad that they lost their John Elway sponsorship.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I know. And he almost didn't do the deal to begin with because the reputation was so bad. And now
So don't do that.
Well, if you were paying attention to the reviews, that was before that keyword bait and switch. They were up on it.
At least on segments, which was the site I was looking for to prepare. they didn't really have like really good reviews. So they had about a 30% overall reputation. But there are only so many reviews, so
Can you bring up the Facebook Insights page under reports?
yeah.
I just want to have one that's up to date.
If it's still working, it's not
Okay.
working. Like you just make some like really basic stuff, things like because we aggregate all the reviews, and then we run like basic dictionary search on it, and then try to make a sense of what's the overall like perception in terms of like percentage as far as the reviews go and the reputation goes, and this is all based on like time series. So you can go back in time to see how it's changing and stuff like that.
What is the data store you use to save all this data?
We use a combination. We use Mongo and MySQL.
It's
For
like MySQL is the source of truth, and then you just shovel it into Mongo.
The reverse.
no, it's actually right. So MySQL is sort of the source of truth, but it's also that we only recently started using Mongo. It's mainly because I forgot to talk about real time. So basically, the way real time is used in our system is that there's this component called alerts. So based on what we get back, like we create alerts based on the events we generate. But we also build this like Facebook wall looking kind of page. So basically, it's a mini Facebook wall. In a way to do like activities just like you could do on Facebook. And to load, so all this data, it comes from all the posts that we store in Mongo. Just because it's pretty disconnected data. Like one post is different than the other. There's not a lot of joins and things to worry about. So, but other than that, like most of the ratings in the reputation data is still in MySQL. Just because the data we draw is used by all the different customers, and then so there's one repository of data, but it just acquires different manifestations based on the keywords that the customer set up. So the same piece of data could mean positive or negative for two different.
So does view post take you to Facebook itself in this case?
Here?
Yeah.
No,
local.
it's another.
Local? Oh, okay. Okay. It's a
There is a
separate.
way though to go to the underlying Facebook post.
Yeah, and there's a link to go to the Facebook page itself. But then there's some useful things that you can't do on Facebook. Things like you can search, filter by comments or filter by people that is not useful. The trend is that most of the time it's just a business that's engaging with them. There's hardly any people. But once in a while you want to know if others are kind of feeding on you. So things like that. Does that answer your question? So that's pretty much it. And then I did not cover Topsy, which is pretty cool. We haven't really looked at it yet, but it looks pretty promising. I like to use it pretty frequently. It's another one of search engines that gives us trends and stuff like that. Yeah, this was acquired by Apple. I think it's not independent anymore. But I think this is also one of the preferred data resellers for Twitter. There could be more, I think, but this is mainly based on the Twitter data, the trends and the analytics.
And so you type baseball and then you get a whole bunch of others.
Well, it has its own like default search terms didn't really take very small here.
Oh, interpretive comparisons. That's great.
All those are just like grayed out, basically.
Yeah.
I had football, which was the other big one.
Football is like a World Series or something.
Oh, it's World
Regular
Series.
season.
Monday Night Football.
Yeah, World Series.
It's every 7 days.
Just out of curiosity, what if you typed FUTBOL? Is this a global thing? OL.
BOL.
BOL. Football.
That's the.
Or the
Spanish.
It's different, right?
Yeah.
Same as baseball.
Right. Yeah. Right. Baseball.
So, I don't think this the API is not free. I think just the usage of the site is free, but the API is only for free users. But it looks pretty cool as far as like a data source for a social media site goes.
So does it only do like keyword counts, or does it do more than that? Because it seems like keyword counts would be pretty easy to do, right?
In here, it has a few.
So you can do some search
Yeah.
hashtag 10.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe because it's still crawling just Twitter data, maybe it should just be getting that. So I think that's pretty much it. I mean, like similar tools to kind of compare with is obviously Hootsuite, which is the most popular, yes. And there's also tools like Sprout Social and Buffer. I never used Buffer, but we use other tools. It's pretty cool. We always keep talking about how our tool looks better than Hootsuite. But that's. So that's pretty much it. Like, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Or if you want to like dig deep into anything, maybe we can do that too. You guys.
Thank you very much for the presentation.